Literary nonfiction is what's on tap for today. So you should have a handout that looks like this, and we're going to talk about the 4 different types of literary nonfiction and kind of what makes up each type. So we'll go ahead and start in the top left-hand corner with biography. So bio, if you kind of remember what your roots mean, it will really kind of help you figure out the different types of words. Bio means life. And then anything to do with graph or graphy has to do with writing somehow. So you already know going into it, if you don't know what a biography is, you at least know that it has something to do with writing about somebody's life. So if you look at my little stick figures here, this one is supposed to represent the author as a pencil. And then this one represents the subject. Now this has an equal sign that's been marked out. And so in this case, the author is not the same person as the subject. So this is not an author writing about themselves, they're writing about someone else. So your stick figures kind of help you figure out who's writing and who it's about. So biography is about someone else's life. So it usually is about their entire life, and it usually is somebody who is famous for something. So they're well known for some reason. Maybe they invented something, they were the president, pop star, not just some plain average ordinary person though. So it is over that person's entire life. And again, it's somebody who's famous for some reason. Okay, so something else you need to know about a biography is that the length can vary big time. So this can be anywhere from half a page, to even 200 pages in a book. And so there's a huge variation of length for that. So length is going to be anywhere from a page or so to even around a 200-page book. So we can have very brief biographies or we can have very in-depth ones. It just kind of depends on the point of view of the author, what they want to write about. Biography is very formal writing. You're not going to see a lot of slang words. It's going to be very text-based, very fact-based. It's not going to have a lot in the way of opinion. So it's a very formal type of writing. It's very much sticks to the facts. And if you are trying to do research and you want to find out some information about someone, a biography is a great thing to use in your research. So as far as reading goes, it is great for research purposes. And that's because, again, it sticks to the facts. The person who wrote this has done their research, they've done their homework, they've found out everything that they can, so you can pretty much trust that this is a credible source of information. So that's a biography for you. Written by an author about someone else's life, someone who's probably well known for some reason. The length varies, it's very formal, and it's great for research purposes. Alright, so next up is going to be an autobiography. So again, we go over here, bio means life. We know that graph or graphene has something to do with writing or something written. And auto is self. So in this case, you can see the big difference is that auto has been tacked onto the beginning of this. And so this again is your author right here, this little stick figure dude with a pencil. And in this case, the author equals the subject, so they are one and the same. So the person who's doing the writing is writing about themselves. So again, that's what makes it an autobiography. So they're very, very similar. They're going to still be over the entire life of someone who's well known. So this person's writing about something that they've done that made them famous for some reason. So over entire life of someone famous. The length, usually you're not going to find an autobiography that's only a page long. Most people don't go to the trouble to write about themselves and make it that short. So if they're going to take the time to tell you about themselves in writing, it's usually going to be 50 pages or so. We have a lot of the autobiographies in the library that are short hardbacks, and they're anywhere from 20 to 50 pages. So again, the length does vary, but typically these are going to be longer than the biographies are. So the length is anywhere from like 20 to 150 pages, give or take. These are not exact counts, but just kind of a rough estimate. Again, it's very formal writing. But because the person is writing this about themselves, it is going to be a little bit more personal than a biography is. Still not any slang. They're still going to kind of, base it on facts and things that happen. They're not going to get too personal, but you can tell the difference between a biography and an autobiography. Again, this person's more familiar because it's about them. So formal writing, but a bit more personal than a biography. And autobiographies are also good for research. So you as a reader, if you're trying to find out information about a certain person, and then such as Helen Keller, she wrote an autobiography. So what better place to get information from than from the source? Somebody who actually can tell you what really did happen to them. So it's also good for research. Because it's fact-based, you can pretty well trust what they're saying is true. Alright, so that's autobiography and biography. So the main difference is the person who's written it. A memoir. It sounds a lot like the word memory, and in fact that's really what it is. So again, we have our author here, and our author equals the subject. So the person who's writing it is writing it about themselves. This is still over their entire life for the most part, but it really focuses on the primary memories that are important to that person, the memories that kind of make up their life, the ones that really made a big impression on them when they were growing up and then as they were growing. So over entire life, but mainly focused on important memories. The length, it's usually going to be a little bit longer than your biography and your autobiography. The people who write these usually have a lot to say, and so it's probably going to be 200 pages or longer. This is going to read a lot like a journal or a diary entry. A memoir is very personal. It's going to be their deepest, darkest secrets that they're revealing to you, the reader. And so it's really a big difference from an autobiography, because an autobiography is still very formal. This one might use language that may not be appropriate in all situations. This might include information that shocks you. This might make you laugh, make you cry. A memoir, again, is going to be very, very personal. It's like picking up someone's diary and actually reading it. So this one is like a journal or diary. It's going to be juicy personal writing. And you have to wonder sometimes, why would somebody write something like that? Why not just go tell a best friend or something? Sometimes people are able to express themselves better in writing than they are orally or in person. And so it's very cathartic for people to be able to write things down. That's why so many people do keep journals or diaries. It's nice to just be able to get it on paper or get it out there, just express it in some way. Sometimes people feel like they can make a difference to others who might be going through a similar situation, and that's why they choose to have something like this published. So it's very cathartic. It's kind of like therapy for the author in a way. So it's cathartic for the author to get that information off their chest. But for us, it's a great read. It makes us grateful for the lives that we have. It makes us question the choices that we're about to make. It just really kind of puts things into perspective for us to read about someone else who's gone through the experiences that author has. So it's cathartic for the author, but for us, it'll make us laugh or cry. So my favorite out of those three is definitely a memoir. That's the kind of reading that I like to do for myself, for fun. The last one is personal narrative. And again, you have an author who is also the subject. So if you're the author, you're writing this about yourself. The major difference between this and the other three is that this one is over only one memory, not a person's entire life, not all the memories. This is over only one memory. The length, because it is over only one memory, is going to be very short. Usually this is just maybe a page or two. Something like a personal narrative is typically not published in a book. It might be posted on somebody's website. A collection of them might be gathered by a teacher and shared with a class in some way. But these are typically written for school. They're not really real life types of writing. They are personal, so personal narratives, kind of get the name and the title there. It's personal. It gives you a glimpse into one important memory for that person. And like I said just a minute ago, it's usually written for school. It's written for the STAR test. This is not the type of writing that we typically would go home and do, just for fun. It's going to be something that you've been asked to do by a teacher for a very specific purpose. So usually once you get out of middle school, high school, you probably won't ever write a personal narrative again. But it does kind of pave the way for a memoir. So if you choose to actually write something about yourself in the future, you can take a collection of personal narratives and that can be turned into a memoir quite easily. So it's usually written for school and for tests. Okay, so personal narrative is going to be the shortest. Your memoir is probably going to be the longest. These two are probably the most alike because they're both about memories of a person who's writing about themselves. They're going to be special memories that are important to that person. These two, biography and autobiography, are going to be a little bit more dry, more fact-based. These are going to be better if you're doing some sort of a research project for school. And so that, folks, is literary nonfiction. So get to reading. There's a lot of good stuff out there.